Well, hello, everyone. I am Dr. McIntosh, principal at Cherokee Elementary School. So happy to be joining in with you today for another session of our Parent University from the district perspective. We are coming together. And so if you will note that we've seen a rise in COVID-19 cases, and so we are suspending a lot of our in-person meetings. However, this link is going to be shared via our school's Facebook page as well as our district Facebook page. We want to make sure that we continue engaging with you as we partner together, all of our parents and family members, to ensure that we are not only fostering, but we're sustaining an inclusive environment for all of our students to be successful, and as well our partners, you, our parents and family members. This session is going to be centered on relationship building with the school, the student, the parent, as well as the whole community. We are operating as one. Where we talk about many times with Muskogee Public Schools, one heart, one mind, every day, the Muskogee way. We want to continue that. And so this session is going to be entitled Relate to Educate. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through a really open-ended critical thinking time for us as we continue to think about where we are today and then where we want to be in the best interest for every student to be successful throughout Muskogee Public Schools District. So bear with me just a moment as I transition so that you can see my screen and we can continue our time today as we relate to educate. Relate to educate, promoting healthy parent-teacher-school relationships. Once again, I'm Dr. McIntosh, so thankful for this opportunity to be able to honor and serve in this way. And so let's dive right in. So what is our purpose? What are the essentials? We want to identify critical elements that serve as the foundation for not just building, but also sustaining positive relationships between the schools and families. Two, we also want to understand how healthy relationships with students support not only social, but emotional development. That's going to help our students to thrive and enable them both in and outside of the classroom. So what are the outcomes? What's in it for me? Research, not only from our daily experiences, but collectively as teachers, support team members, administrators, as a district, we know that solid parent-teacher-school relationships are the foundation so that families are not only getting involved in their students' education, but that we are connected, that we're growing and we're fostering strong relationships to help our scholars, no matter what grade, whether they're at ECC with pre-K or at the Muskogee High School and graduating as a senior 12th grade, but that we want them to be able to excel academically, socially, and emotionally. I really work to live by this. And for many that know me personally, I'm big on relationships. And so, very simple, just something for you to think about. If we fail to relate, we fail to educate. We're living in a time, parents and family members, and the Muskogee community as a whole. We know that education is changing. We are having to consistently adapt to new ways of doing things. For what used to be necessarily classroom chalkboards went to marker boards, went to Promethean interactive boards where scholars can jump up and run and touch and interact with the actual board itself. We have, the technological advancements and devices with our bond issue that has been successfully passed, and several other things, innovative ways that we're wanting to really promote and foster a strong education for our scholars so that they're ready to be the next game changers, if you will, in the working world. Not only with that, we know that it takes hearing from our students. It takes hearing from our parents. It also takes hearing from the community. What are the needs that we have as a district? Where is it that we're wanting to see our district with each school year? How we are engaged in what we consider a continuous improvement cycle so that every student is able to succeed no matter what challenges or barriers that they have to overcome and face each day. We still want every student to be successful. And we know the way to get there is to first have a strong relationship. So I want to take you on a journey for a minute. I want you to think back to your K-12 educational journey. So it may be elementary school, it may be middle school, it may be high school. You likely had several teachers, okay? When we think about everyone that we had, think about some of those experiences. Two scenarios for us to talk about. The first teacher, someone who you admire the most for how they made you feel, how they impacted your education. What was it specifically that this teacher did to influence your attitude about them? The second teacher, the teacher who you were not, was not your favorite. And perhaps you had a classroom environment that you did not look forward to entering. In both scenarios, you were impacted. Your educational journey was impacted. And that all occurred based upon the relationship that you had, whether it was a positive relationship or an unfavorable relationship. We know together that no matter what, daily experiences and our perceptions, they also guide our ability to relate. And based upon our relationship building skills, we are then able to foster an environment where every student is able to be successful, or it's an unfavorable situation or scenario, and that works against that student's ability to be successful. When I think about one teacher that stuck out for me was one that I knew when I walked into the classroom that I was going to be taken on a journey. I love history. And so one particular class that I had in high school, the teacher always made the lessons fun and interacting. You could see us on several days doing a debate where we would debate with other scholars about issues that we were reading in our history book. We would do gallery walks, wax museums, where we would become actual historical figures that we made the classroom. It turned into really an environment where you were back in time during that actual time era. I would think of many times the teacher would come in and would be dressed from a historical period that we would be reading and learning about. Many times there would be supplemental aids and visuals, and we even went on field trips. We went on a historical Black college tour. This particular individual really took the classroom and made it into an environment that no matter what your learning needs were, you felt appreciated, celebrated for who you were as a person, but then also that you were a contributing partner in the process of your education. You had involvement, you had some say, you had some autonomy. And so based on those, when we think about how we serve today, meaning us as a school district and how we serve each and every student throughout Muskogee Public Schools, we're committed to making sure that the first teacher situation that I'm just speaking of occurs for all of our students. And we also know that we cannot do this work alone. This takes everyone coming together for the good of the student, for the good of your child, for the good of your children if you have more than one that are connected and attend throughout the district. We see the opportunity each and every day as a great responsibility and task. And even despite having to make some different modifications and changes or adjustments, if you will, to really ensure safety, not only for teachers, but as well for your child, we're having to do some very unconventional things. However, please know that, together we will get through this. And a strong relationship where we know that each and every person is valued in their respective stakeholder role, we know that that is going to be what connects us and makes us go to that next step of success. So I want to pose to you today the word relate. 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 What a great word. I know that we are right in the middle of the first of a new month of 2022. And we are always looking for someone that we can relate to when we're going through, whether it be challenges or issues. I know that, school has recently switched to distance learning for a short period of time. However, we know that the ability to relate, that fosters a sense of strength. I'm going to break down a characteristic of what a strong relationship must have in order for us to continue the tradition of excellence and the path that Muskogee Public Schools is on as we move from our today into our future tomorrow. So I'm going to break down each letter, and it will encompass a characteristic by which we must possess, no matter if we are an administrator, if we are a teacher, if we are a support team member, if we are a parent, a guardian, a community member, a student. We want to encompass these characteristics to help aid us as we move forward. The first letter, R, respect. Respect meaning the ability to recognize and to also appreciate the rights, the beliefs, the practices, and the differences of other people. I'm sure you know by looking at our district, we serve a very diverse student population, many different ethnic backgrounds, all types of needs, maybe, diverse needs we're serving on a daily basis. We must possess first respect for ourselves, knowing that we are individuals and we have great worth and value. We are unique. No two people are alike. We've learned as educators, and we know this, that two students, they're not alike. They have some similarities, but there are some distinct differences. We want to continue to educate as looking at our students from the perspective of that they are individual minds, that we're wanting to foster and provide an education that is stellar, that's excellent. There's got to be respect for the family, knowing that our parents are partners. We wanting to partner with you. We know that many times, sometimes communication that is coming out, it may be less than what we want to hear, or maybe unfavorable when we're looking at perhaps academics. Maybe we're looking at some social challenges that a scholar is facing, or maybe we're looking at perhaps there were a couple of behavior challenges that we may need to work through. But knowing that, number one, we approach all of our favorable and even some of the unfavorable communication in a way that is positive and in a way that is going to be advantageous for all stakeholders to thrive. There's also got to be respect for the learning community. When I refer to the learning community, we're looking at the school. We're also looking at the teachers. We're looking at administration. Collectively, this triangle is encompassing and ensuring that education for your child is going to be had and with a level of excellence each and every day. Knowing this, we want to make sure that we set the letter R, respect, as that foundation by which we build and sustain strong relationships that's going to drive us into our continued pathway to excellence. The letter R, respect. The next letter is E, everyone. Everyone, everyone's input, it matters. As partners, we must recognize and we must value the efforts of others as much as possible. A positive outlook, it will always go a long way. Trust me on this. I know that our students love that sense of, belonging, individualizing, from greeting our scholars at the door by name, between class changes, ensuring that scholars know that we see them. Hi, how are you doing today? When our parents are coming into the schools, we want you connected. We want you to be, informed and engaged along with us. We know that the work is challenging, and as we have seen how we've had to call on our parents to join us as co-educators in a time of distance learning. We cannot do this work alone. It takes everyone coming together. But knowing that too, your input, it matters. We must know that it may be a student or a child that is having some issues. Even them too, they are important. Their input matters. When you're having to contact the school or attend a parent meeting, no matter what, everyone's input matters. Our parents' input matters. Our teachers' input matters. The support team members, their input matters, as well as administration, their input matters. Everyone is coming together, but we must always understand that our beliefs, our experiences, they shape how we perceive and how we make sense of our reality. And even though we may come together and have some differing of our opinions and having to really work in a very strategic way to get what we need to get taken care of completed, let's be sure that we remember the letter E, which is stating that everyone's input, it matters. When we, as small children, we know that when we had input on, given some choices that we can make, we love that. We love that sense of independence. We love that sense of being built up, that our input, our identity, it matters. And so knowing that, we can't disconnect that when we're thinking about educating our Muskogee Public Schools students. So remember, everyone's input, it matters. The next letter is L. Listen at all times. Again, I'll repeat. Listen at all times. The best thing that any one of us can do, no matter what role we play, whether we are a parent, a support team member, a teacher, a counselor, an administrator, we must listen at all times. We want to do that, and we can do that in the best way by ensuring that we minimize distractions. We want to make sure that we allow each person to speak uninterrupted. Also, many times we may not understand if things are being presented to us, and maybe we're not quite sure what some of the words that are being spoken mean. It's okay to ask, what do you mean by that? Can you clarify for me? I'm not understanding. That's going to be critical in the time to which we live. Many times we are adopting some innovative strategies and ways to support each and every student. And as parents, we know that sometimes you may not understand, or teachers may not understand your perspective. We want to ask some clarifying questions. We want to listen to everyone. We want everyone to be understood. And we also want to respond, and a part of reflective listening, making sure that you heard a person correctly and that the meaning also aligns with what you heard. We want to be sure that every student is on the path to continued excellence. And we can only ensure that when we listen to where our families come from. Families, we're calling on you. We want to learn and know, what challenges are you experiencing? What are some of the things that you would like to see happening moving forward with the trajectory of our district? We look at where we are today, and then we must also look at where we want to be. And we know that the pathway and journey to get there may pose a challenge. However, nevertheless, it is still never acceptable for us not to listen to one another. We all have great value, as just as we stated, everyone's input matters. Because everyone's input matters, and that we also are embracing that sense of respect for self and others, we must, as a part of upholding those two characteristics, we must listen at all times. I pose a question to you. How can we serve if we fail to listen to each other? There's not a one lens fits all approach. And knowing that, it's only through listening, having an established sense of respect, not only for self, but others, and then also acknowledging that everyone's input matters when it comes to decision making, when it comes to the education that we are providing for our students. Everyone's input matters, but we must listen at all times. I believe student voice also is very important when we're talking about listening to also what our students have to say. No matter if they're at ECC and they're 4, or if they're 17 and they're at Muskogee High School, our students have voice and our students have something to say. The next letter, A, advocacy. What do you mean, Dr. McIntosh? Advocacy. Advocacy is referring to the promotion and the development of an appropriate educational and community support service plan that's going to identify and address the educational needs for our scholars. No matter if you are 4, like I said, at ECC, if you're a 5th grader at Sadler, or if you are a 6th and 7th grader at the 6th and 7th grade academy at Ben Franklin, we want to make sure that you know, as parent and family members and guardians, we want you to advocate for your child. If things are not going well, we want to hear from you. We want to provide educational support. If you notice that your student, if your child, or if your children are struggling in an area within reading, for example, or within math, or maybe you're wanting more information, maybe they are, talking about and really want to go to college, but not quite sure if they are connected and on the right pathway to get to where they need to get to, or learning about scholarship and financial aid, learning about preparing for the ACT and SAT exams early, making sure that we are on the right path at all times. We want to hear from you. If you're having trouble, perhaps, let's say some challenges are occurring, you are experiencing some anxiety, your students are experiencing anxiety, your children could be struggling with some issues with, fitting in, or if bullying has occurred. We'll talk in upcoming sessions about bullying specifically and how to really support and ensure that not only are our schools responsive, but that we are also responsive as parents and family members to ensure that our students feel safe at all times. Nevertheless, go to the schools. The schools are open. Necessarily, I know that many times we have some revised protocols with COVID-19. Please know that the first line of contact should always be a phone call. Definitely call, set up a time to speak with a counselor, with a teacher, with an administrator. We are definitely all hands on. We know that it takes all hands on deck of everyone coming together, but we must advocate for those needs. If your child is coming home and maybe they're not necessarily communicating with words, that they're struggling, but you can see it written all over their face. It may be that the relationship that you have with your child, you can look in and understand those elements of saying what they're not saying by using those nonverbals. That may be unbeknownst to the classroom teacher or a support team member that works with that child closely, or an administrator that generally sees the child, in the hallways or common passing times, lunch, recess, things of that nature. We want to make sure that if a child is having any issue of whatever the concern may be, that you're contacting the school, that you're coming in for support, whether it be for counseling, both contracted services or our building counselor services, as well as we recently have launched at each individual school site, and that is our parent university, raising highly capable kids. This is a great opportunity just to build stronger relational ties between you and your child specifically. It also is going to strengthen those relationships, I believe, too, at the core with the school. Many times, if you are at in elementary specifically, you're spending about 5, sometimes 4 to 5 or 6 years within one school site. What better way than to start, kindergarten, being involved and continuing that trajectory as a child matriculates from kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade. We know that 6th and 7th, that's 2 years to grow and sustain relationships. The same with 8th and 9th, and then also 10 through 12. We're about a pathway to excellence with Muskogee Public Schools. And what better way than to know that the ability to advocate is there, and that we definitely will be taking that seriously and ensuring that we consistently are strengthening our relationships through advocacy, through making sure that we are communicating needs early, and that we're strategizing, and that we are being very responsive to the needs of the diverse student demographic that we serve. Remember, advocacy. The next letter, T, togetherness. We are a team, and I say it many times, together we are better. Each student's education, their social and their emotional development, it should always be valued, and it should serve as the foundation by which we commit to work together. I know that as a parent, you know that your child, they are your all. You owe a great responsibility, and they trust you. We want that same trust as well when we're talking about coming together for your child's education. We want to trust not only the school, trusting the instruction that is taking place, the opportunities for extracurricular activities, our athletics, okay? It takes everyone coming together, the student, the parents, teachers, counselors, administrators, no matter what role that you are serving in on Muskogee Public Schools as an employee, or if you are a parent or family member, and many times we have team members that are also parents who have students at other respective building sites throughout our district. That means we are all together. We are one. And so what better way than to know that, and know that when we're fostering relationships, there has to be that characteristic of togetherness, a sense of unity, a sense of harmony, that we come together and we know what we're coming together for. We are coming together for the good of our students, for the good of your child, for the good of your children, of your family, as we consistently are impacting and changing lives in a positive way each and every day throughout Muskogee Public Schools. So remember, when we're talking about the letter T in the word of relate, we know about respect. We know about everyone's input matters. We know that we're listening at all times. And we also know that we are advocating as needs arise. But together, the letter T for togetherness, we are able to gather, we're able to meet. It may be in a social distant manner. However, we are able to meet for the best interest of each student throughout our Muskogee Public Schools district. So remember, the letter T, togetherness. The next letter, E, positivity. As a team, we are committed to ensuring that each student succeeds. We must recognize, though, and value the good in each and every student as much as possible. Even the toughest student has a great value and also positive character traits. When we elevate positivity, we're not only empowering one another, but we get excited. Naturally, I'm excited now thinking about that. When we elevate positivity throughout our district, no matter which stakeholder group it is, parents elevating positivity, wanting and believing and declaring that better is going to occur for your student, that they where they are right now and where they are performing, it will only continue to improve. I believe that when we adapt that optimistic, open mind, and that we are, committed to working together, as we are advocating, as we listen to one another, okay, as we are respectful towards one another in our exchange of communication, verbally, written, no matter what it might be, whether we're having a phone call, a face-to-face meeting, email, classroom dojo, Remind 101, and the list continues to go on. No matter what, we're elevating positivity. Even challenges can be framed in a way that, we know that today, news that we had to discuss, or a report, or whatever it might be, the information that was shared may be unfavorable. But let's also know that by the time we end a certain meeting, that we're able to understand what our immediate next steps are, and then knowing that we can come to the table, even if it's the next day, and maybe making some revisions so that we can ensure that every student is successful. So remember, E, elevate positivity. I say all the time, it works if you work it. Again, it works if you work it. I know that over the course of being in, a prior school district before coming to Muskogee, having taught, having, served in some leadership capacities prior to serving as principal at Cherokee, knowing that, we have unique opportunities each and every day as educators, as teachers, as counselors, as support team members. No matter what our role is on the education side, we are committed to ensuring that we're making some appropriate changes to ensure that every child is going to be successful. Please know that then on the other side too, it takes a lot of work, and we are committed to putting forth the effort to partner and to join that strong, engaged relationship that's needed for every child to be successful. It is critically important. It is so important. It's important for our families to believe that we are committed and that we're going to consistently be engaged and communicate with you, that we're embracing this whole concept of relate. How we relate is how we educate. If we relate well, we'll educate well. If we don't relate well, then we really can't educate well. So it takes all of those core principles, the R, relate, respect, okay? The E, everyone's input, it matters. The L, listen at all times. The A, we've got to advocate, advocate, advocate. The T, togetherness. As you hear the one, when we're talking about the motto for Muskogee Public Schools, the concept of one, every single day, we're operating as one, coming together for the good of every student to be successful. And that final E of elevating positivity. It works if you work it. Again, it works if you work it. I'm not saying that every day it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that at all. But what I will say is that a consistent commitment to ensure that every student is successful and that we are definitely embracing whatever it takes, doing some unconventional things, being unique in how we set up plans for students to be successful, both on and off campus, being engaged in extracurricular activities outside of the classroom, athletics, several other speech, debate, so many different clubs and opportunities, robotics, gifted and talented. We host so many different things for our students to be connected and experience on a day's basis. Our future can't help but to be bright. But again, remember, it only works if you work it. So knowing what does work I want to take a minute and think about perhaps what we know that does not work. Okay. Three main things: inconsistency, rigidity, preconceived notions. Dr. McIntosh, you're using some big words. Well, let me break it down. Inconsistency. We want to make sure that when we develop a plan, we're working together, making sure that we are implementing those plans and we're taking those seriously. We're not unwavering, but we also know that if we need to make changes, we need to make some sound changes. And we're making that with everyone coming again, like the letter T says, together to make those changes. We want to be consistent. We also know that rigidity, it doesn't work. When we're rigid, or we only see things one way and we're not willing to budge or think about things in a new way, when we're not necessarily elevating positivity with an open mind, that really works against the whole concept of relate to educate. And then the preconceived notions, things in the past 3, 4, 5 years ago. I understand that we cannot go back and undo the past. However, we can set aside time in the present to engage in conversation, devise plans that are going to support and ensure that a student is able to be successful moving forward. That's what's going to help impact a positive future. So we must dismiss some of our preconceived notions just so that we're able to come together as one, devise those plans, set up programming, ensure that supports are there for every student to be successful so that we can ensure a brighter future. Applying what you know. The research has found that there is a link between student-teacher relationships and student learning outcomes. Students that have positive relationships with their teachers have been found to be highly motivated, focused on their tasks, and they also have greater learning outcomes. When we're thinking about coming together, your children will see you coming together, coming into the school, being involved, communicating with their teacher, communicating with their counselor, communicating also with their administrator, their support team members, those who they see every day. That also builds a sense of strength, a sense of belonging, and also a sense of unity, focusing on the letter T of togetherness. Okay. Your child sees that. And that's what's going to really help us as we continue down the path towards continued excellence. We want every student to be successful, and we know that the best is still yet to come. So I'm going to switch gears real quick and stop the presentation. And so again, I just want to emphasize, here in Muskogee Public Schools, we're in a new year. It's 2022. We have so many great things that we are working on to ensure that our students are successful every single day. It doesn't matter if you're 4 years old and you're at ECC with Ms. Hoskins, if you are a fifth grader at Tony Getz with Mrs. McWilliams, or if you are at eighth and ninth with Mr. Buell, or wherever you might be in our district. It does not matter. We know that we are here today and that the decisions that we make today, the supports and the programming that we put in place for our students to be successful today, that will only continue to enhance the outcome for students to be successful, both socially, emotionally, and then also, most importantly, academically, as they continue down the path to excellence. Again, this is Dr. McIntosh, Parent University. We are strengthening, we are together. Remember, we relate to educate. The R, respect. The E, everyone's input matters. The L, we listen at all times. The A, We advocate, advocate, advocate. The T, togetherness. Remember, unity. And the E, elevate, positivity. Relate to educate. This is Dr. McIntosh. Remember, I believe, and I surely hope that you do too, that our best is still yet to come. Take care.